welcome back to another episode of the Deals for Dentists podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. Through these podcast episodes, I'll be interviewing dental professionals and companies and aim to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. Today, I'm joined by Neo Positivity. Neo worked as a police officer right up until his retirement in 2010, where he founded his own company. Today, Neo spends his time working on his passion to help others find joy and purpose in life by manifesting positivity. In today's episode, Neo will be sharing his story on how the law of attraction helped him see a positive perspective and changed his life around, and how you can do the same. Neo, thank you so much for sharing your story and being on the show with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. It's truly an honor.
So we made this happen fast. We literally got in touch just a few days ago, and I wanted to get you on here and I had so many questions to ask you. Actually, can you just tell me all about the law of attraction?
Oh man, I just have to say like this. If you've ever thought about someone or had a conversation about someone, and a couple of days they end up inboxing you or texting you, and you're like, man, I was just thinking about them, or any situation where you're saying, I was just thinking about that. I like to say that energy transfer or that magic, whatever you want to call it, can be used to get more than a phone call. And with anything, when you learn how to do it better, your outcomes will be better, your results will be better. So that's as soon as I saw The Secret, which is, I encourage everybody to watch that movie or read the book. Watch the movie because you'll be done in an hour, whereas the book might take you a week. You're gonna be excited. Trust me, just watch the movie. It'll change your life. And The Power of Now, actually, by Eckhart Tolle, is the second part to what made me who I am today, which is a law of attraction beast. I'm telling you, once you learn the principles and how to use it, you can get anything.
So is it all about kind of like the energy and frequency or magnetism? How does that all kind of come together?
Everything you just said is beautiful. People don't know, when you have a thought, it travels down your spine and releases from your lower back. And that energy wave travels across the whole universe, not just America or Earth. Third law of motion demands that every action has an opposite and equal reaction, which means the universe has to do whatever it has to do to make that thought travel back to you, which is opposite, and be felt again, which is the equal reaction. So, if you're sitting there saying, I hate my car or I hate my life, the universe is going to do whatever it has to do to make you say that again. And that's why, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and you've seen everybody has somebody in their life that's just negative Nancy and everything's going wrong in their life. This is why, and a lot of people think it doesn't apply to them, but it does. You're using the law of attraction right now. You've used it every second of your life. If you want to know what you've used it for, just take a look around you. Your current circumstances. It's exactly, Einstein said it, we are a result of our previous thoughts. So yeah, that's basically how it rolls.
So, there, especially, I'm a full-time practicing dentist. In dentistry, there can be a lot of negativity. Dentists, we have so much on our plate. We're stressed out. Patients come in, they're nervous. There can be a lot of negativity that can create dentists to get burned out or stressed. And we can have negative culture, staff. A lot of things can really, really affect us. So what do you recommend for dentists out there that are, they're struggling with anxiety, stress, or they just don't feel like they have a good grasp on the culture of their practice?
You know what? There's probably 8,000 books out there that will give you 8,000 different answers to this. But for me, identify the problem and the solution will present itself. So I'd like to break things down to the source and get a bare knuckles answer that will work every time for everybody. It's not about your culture, white, black, tall, short, male, female. And at the end of the day, once you've gone through all the different methods, which I can give you a bunch, but the one that's been most effective for me and my clients is fear. I like to make people fear their negative thoughts, because fear will make people change. A lot of people don't want to change what they're doing, their habits, But if you're actually legitimately scared that you spending this much time in this headspace is going to result in pain or anguish in the future, you'll change. That'll make you proactively stop yourself. Somebody listening to this tonight is going to be in a negative headspace and stop and be like, whoa, just in case those guys are right, I might not want to spend too much time here. And that's what you got to use. That's absolutely hands down. That's what you got to use. If you can't grasp positivity because your boss, your spouse, your coworkers, and your patients are being negative, the last thing you could do is just know that anytime you spend in that headspace, you're messing up your future. Like that's the best answer I can give you for that.
Well, I think, you just said the words grasp that positivity. I mean, you gotta, I think number one, you gotta go into work and work with people that are positive around you. You don't want to be working with people that are negative, that are bringing you down. And also you said there a lot of fear. And especially in a dental office, there can be a lot of fear of change. Dentists kind of get into the groove of doing the same old thing over and over. They keep a lot of the same staff. They do a lot of the same treatment, and they don't branch out and try new things. And there's that fear of change. So I think you nailed it right there.
It's so huge. Nobody likes change, I guess. Some people might say they do, but I think it's just human nature. We get into a pattern. It's comfortable. Let's stay here. But if you made $100,000 this year and you want to make $110,000 next year, something's going to have to change. Something. And if you want to make $200,000 next year, you might have to change everything. I was stuck. I'm not going to say stuck, because I certainly wasn't. But I stayed in the same county my whole life up until 2 years ago, when I just said, what would it be like if I just moved to Florida? And I entertained the possibility and put my house on the market the next day. And then I also asked myself, what else have I been missing out on? I always wanted to be a pilot. I started pilot school that Tuesday. I graduated pilot school, I think July 15th. I moved to Florida August 16th. And since I've come down, my life has 360, 100, just flipped. Tenfold, it's flipped. I went from dreaming about flying my whole life to flying almost daily. I live in the sunny Florida, although it's raining right now. It'll stop and the sun will come out in 10 minutes. And the quality of people, lifestyle, everybody's nicer. It's nicer. More sunlight gives you vitamin D. Let me tell you something. That's the big thing about Jersey people don't understand. When it rains in Jersey, you usually don't see the sun for 4 to 7 days. That does something to you. So get outside and get some sun, for one, and embrace change. As humans, we're not meant to be stagnant. That's why it feels weird, and that's why it feels amazing when we grow and discover something new. Embrace it. It's scary. It's scary. And to speak on what you said about working in a negative space, I know plenty of people hear that and say, well, my office is already negative, so I guess I would have to find a job in a positive office. And how hard is that to do? You can uplift a room. One of my New Year's resolutions a long time ago was to uplift every single room that I walked into, leave it just that much more positive than it was when I walked in. And you met Dr. Cameron. It's hard to brighten a room that Dr. Cameron has already brightened, but guess what? I enjoy trying. So you can change an office. You can walk into a room and every day just kill them with kindness. Kill them with kindness. You will succeed. That's a great statement. You will succeed. At the very least, they'll treat you different. Kindness, happiness, joy gets reciprocated. At the very least, they treat you differently. The office starts to change. Next thing you know, you didn't have to change your job. You just had to change the way you saw things and the way you thought about things.
Yeah, I totally agree that there can be a false belief that nothing can change and this is just the way it is and this is the profession I chose and I'm just gonna ride this out until I retire and in 30 years, and that is no way to live.
That's sad.
It's no way to live, and you can overcome that false belief, and you can, like you said, you can embrace the change and make things more positive.
Now you tell me, when I first, because I knew I had to work, whatever, 30, 25 years or whatever, but it didn't really hit me. So when I first realized I'm going to have to do this until I'm 65, and then or whatever age, and then try to enjoy what's left in life. I was like, no, I wasn't just like, oh man, that sounds like a sucky plan. I was like, no, I am not doing that. No matter what the world said to me, I refused. I absolutely refused. And it brought me The Secret, which a couple months later brought me retirement. And it's like, do you think everybody feels like that deep down inside? Or do you think just some people are like, no, I refuse to do that?
I looked in the mirror and I said, because I went through a lot of burnout and stress and really regretted my place in the profession. And I said, there's no way I can do this for the next 30 years. It's no way to live. So I made some major changes. I went to therapy and a lot of soul searching, and it wasn't easy. But I got back to the point where I enjoy going to work every day. And that's why I wrote my book. But it's you have to take that first step. First realize that this is a problem. If you're miserable in your job or you're not happy and you're just going to wait this thing out until you retire, that is no way to live.
No, it's not. That's sad. And you know what? Now that I got you here, shout out to Elijah Desmond. He's my guy. Cool Peoples. He's throwing at dental festivals and all that. He has a Facebook group called Trapped in the Op, and it's what kind of his big come up. You got to tell me, what is it about the op? Because I'm not in the dental profession really. So what is it about the OP that has everybody like going through it?
Well, I think a lot of it, for dentists and hygienists, we are in our own little world. We're in our own little bubble, and we're doing the same thing over and over every day. And personally, I'm an introvert. So it's a very social profession. So that took a lot out of me to be on my A game. Like, first of all, a dentist or hygienist, you can't have a bad day. You got to be on all the time. You have to make a connection with that patient. A lot of these patients are scared. They're nervous. So you have to make them feel special and kind of wow them and comfortable. And me personally, as an introvert, that took a lot out of me. So doing that over and over every day, seeing 9 to 10 patients a day for 30 to 40 years is an exhausting and it can be daunting thing to think about. So that has a lot to do with it. So what did you do, before your summit? And you said you retired early on. What did you do actually? What was your line of work?
I used to be a police officer in Camden City, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, lived in Camden County my whole life. My dad was a cop. A bunch of my cousins were cops. My sister was a dispatcher. So it was a natural fallback plan if I didn't make the NFL. And so that's what I was doing there.
Okay, so you said you lived in the same county, so that was in Camden, and then all of a sudden, like one day or 1 week, did you just say, I got to do something, and you moved to Tampa?
Well, here's the thing. I retired way before I moved to Tampa. Mm-hmm. I just moved to Tampa 2 years ago. I retired 13 years ago. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was there. I was in my cop car, and I just didn't want to do it no more. I was always the kindergarten counselor. I was always obsessed with the mind and how it worked, videos and books and stuff like that. And when YouTube came out, it was like amazing. I was like, information can come to me easier. I don't have to read. So I just want to help people on a massive scale, mm-hmm. On a larger scale. And my old partner, retired CIA agent, told me about this movie that they make their recruits watch in the academy. And I'm expecting this SWAT movie, because I was on the SWAT team. I'm expecting guns and the movie was The Secret. And it blew my mind. And I'll tell you, everybody, please try this. In the movie, they tell you to think about a butterfly or a feather, whichever one you don't see that often. I never saw feathers in Jersey. I don't know if it was because it was just windy all the time. And I don't know. I just never saw feathers. And I saw butterflies all the time because my yard had a lot of land down there. So I thought about a feather, holding it in my hand, no good, no bad, whatever. Let it go. Nobody knew I was doing this. I watched the movie by myself. So the next day, I go outside and there's this huge, like 12-inch feather slightly tucked into my windshield wiper, just dangling with the wind, to the point where I had to like run and grab it before it fell off. And I just held it in my hand and I was like, oh my gosh, like I did this out of nowhere. Like I did this, I materialized this. And I logically thought about it. Maybe I didn't materialize it, but you know what it took for that bird to be in the right spot, for the wind to be just right, to make it land there and stay there long enough for me to come out. And it was just like, once I figured I could do that, I could do anything. I could do anything. No matter what rule, regulation, doesn't matter, I could do anything. And I immediately went for retirement and custody of my kids. Immediately. That was the two things that I wanted. I had the tools that I needed. In the movie The Secret, they tell you to print out a blank check. I printed a check, I wrote the numbers on it, names, whatever I needed to, put in my pocket. Every time I grabbed it, I would see myself there. I would feel like I had already retired. That's the hardest part, because the ego steps in and says, no, you're not. No, you haven't. Hit you with your bank statement, proving to you that you're not. And that's when I started finding ways to get around the ego, because that's the big part. That's the biggest part, is being able to stay in the headspace long enough. So you have to trick the ego to let you stay in the headspace long enough to enjoy it. You're watering that seed. I like to say every thought is like putting different drops of seeds into different flower pots. I love my job. My car's a piece of crap. My kids hate me. Whatever pot you're watering, there's nothing there. But eventually, majority wins. The pots that are getting the most water is going to be a plant there in front of you. Now there's something physically in front of you. So I like to use that analogy for that. But yeah, that's how I did it. I watered the seeds, used a lot of emotion. I was tested. I always like to say that no matter what you ask for in life, you'll always be shown, if not proven, that you cannot have it. Something will happen that will show you or prove to you, depending on how big the wish is, that you can't have it, that there's doors going to close in your face. And it's how you respond to that determines if and when you get it. Like, that's huge. And so as many obstacles and stuff that I had to go through, I knew the outcome. I kept that feather in mind. I knew the outcome. I stuck with it, read some more, researched some more, learned some more. Next thing you know, I was retired. And ever since then, I've just been trying to scream from the mountaintops. This thing that I found that works. I like to call myself a professional trier, because I just try different things, different mental exercises, I call them. And what works, I make a video about on YouTube. What doesn't, I scrap it. I field test it with my family and friends. But that's all I do is it's almost like I don't know how to do this. So I keep trying different things, and what works, I share it. And that's like, that's just my whole life, my whole philosophy. And that's how I've been doing everything for the past 13 years.
Do you think that ego gets in the way of a lot of people, where they have that doubt and they don't want to make that change, or they push off retirement, they push it off, even though they're not happy? Is it the ego that makes them push this off?
It's a bunch of different things. You got the fear of change, but the fear of change is strengthened by the ego coming in and always saying, hitting you with statistics. How many people that quit were successful? How many people that do you know that tried this were successful in this? How many times have you tried something like this and been successful in it? It's those stats and things that the ego's constantly throwing at you, because it likes your little safety zone that you're in. Everything's cool. You make enough to pay the rent and be a mortgage and be able to have a little bit extra to take a couple of vacations a year and so you're not struggling. And it likes that little safety zone, and it'll try to keep you there in the spirit of self-preservation. But we as people, I don't think that's us. We want to excel, and it is scary. But guess what? Think about the last couple of times you took a big risk. Going to medical school was a big risk, but you dove, and guess what? You're doing your thing now. And so you got to capitalize on those things. But the ego is the biggest part of that. The ego's not going to stop. It ain't going nowhere. So you have to change the way you see things. That way, when news hits you, information hits you, it hits you different and gets filtered out differently. That's the only way, because the ego's still going to do its thing. So you have to change the way you see things. Big time. That's huge.
So did you say that you almost went to the NFL?
No. Well, I was a free agent at once. So I could say, I guess you could say, yeah. But it just didn't work out. I was a cop. at the time, because I was trying, and my dad was like, well, you're about to have a daughter, you need medical benefits. Take the police test, just get you some benefits. And so that's what I did. And, working as a cop 40, 50 hours a week, plus trying to train, I think that was a huge part of it. Plus, there was a lot of politics, a lot of things involved that back in the day that aren't there now. It's so much easier to get a tryout and stuff like that now, whereas back then it was closed. If you didn't know somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody way up, you weren't getting in. And physically, I don't think I was there. So it was a bunch of contributing factors that didn't amount for that to work out for me. But it was for the better. The universe works in mysterious ways. If I would have went to the NFL, I would have made some money and then retired and had to live off of that. Whereas now I'm good for life. Medical, kids are straight for their lifetime, so it worked out better this way.
And now, what kind of police work did you do? You said SWAT team. What other kind of police work did you do?
There's not too many divisions, but obviously I did normal patrol work. I was on the SWAT team. I did undercover work. I was on the bike squad, which was really cool because 12 people show up, but 4 to 6 of them will be in plain clothes. So they call it plainclothes operations. And, it's a lot easier to run down on bad guys on a bicycle than in a cop car. And it's a lot funner. My whole time in the police department, I think was just fun. I loved it. I've always loved karate. I was a karate champion most of my life, and I've always loved football. And being a cop in what was the most dangerous city in America at the time just encompassed both of those things perfectly. Perfect.
So you were essentially, would you consider yourself undercover if you were on a bicycle and in plain clothes?
Well, we wouldn't do both at the same time. If you were on a bicycle, you basically had BDUs on and a polo button up that looked like a cop on the bike. It was hard to see. But some of the guys would come in plain clothes and they would just hang out on different corners and whatever they had to do. And they'd tell us who to get, where to go. They'd be like, all right, black male, blue jeans, white t-shirt. He's got the shoes on. He's got the bags in his left pocket. And, we go snatch him up. And then that person writes a report on what they saw and, go back out and bag and tag another one. It was just fun. I liked foot chases. I wasn't really into car chases that much, but at the time, Camden City was the most dangerous city in America 6 out of the 8 years I was there. So, and the most dangerous sector was the 403 sector, and the most dangerous corner was Lewis and Norris, which is in the 403 sector, and that was my sector. And I didn't want a partner. I wanted that sector by myself. I got this. They know when I come to work, they know. Go away for a little while. I know we're going to coexist. I'm not Superman. But while I'm here, you better take your butt inside. And it was a cool thing. It was a cool place to be at. You know what I mean?
Where does that come from? Because personally, I would be so scared. And you're saying how much fun it was. I would have been terrified.
You know what? I'll give you this scenario. Imagine you're driving down the street and you get to a stop sign. And you can make it right or left. Someone calls you and they say, hey, I need you to make a right at the stop sign. There's a guy down there with a gun twice the size of yours that can go through your car. I need you to go down there and stop him. By the way, he knows that you're either going to take his freedom or kill him. And we're going to put you in a car that he can definitely see you coming in a uniform that everyone hates. And we're going to put a big shiny metal target on your heart and on your forehead. Okay? Now, I need you to make that right and go do that for $60,000 a year. Now, when I think about it now, I would never make a right in that situation. I wouldn't go back to doing what I was doing. But back in the day, I lived for that. I don't know what it was. My dad, he ran the undercover squad before I got there. Maybe I got it from him. I don't know, but I loved it. I loved every second of it. Except for the paperwork. That was horrible.
Now, to get through, a career like that, did you do a lot of mental exercises back then, or is that something you started doing after you retired?
I'll tell you like this. In high school, I used to play football, and I would go out to the field and I would visualize what I was going to do. I didn't know at the time what I was doing. People would come out, hey, Neo, you good? I'm like, what are you doing out here? Now I'm just looking. And then the next person would come out 10 minutes later, yo, you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And I would do that every week. I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know anything about the law of attraction or mental exercises or that thoughts even counted for anything up until I saw The Secret in March of 2008, in which my last day of work was November 2008. So the amount of time that I knew that thoughts weren't just things that happened in the background like breathing was just that month, those months between March and November.
So you were doing these mental exercises, a long time ago, and you didn't even know you were doing them.
Yeah, all the visualization, all the trying to stay positive, all through school. I used to always tell people, like when they complained about stuff, I would always say things. And this was like one of the number one things that sticks with me. And I used to always say to people, I would say, unless you could build a time machine, I suggest we stop worrying about what happened and go to the next step. How are we going to handle it? But I knew that just sitting and stewing in negativity wasn't the place to be. I come from Camden City's most dangerous city in America. I was born there. I've been to school there. I've seen a lot of poverty. I've seen a lot of things before I became a cop that let me know that unanimously all the people that I knew in my life that were just negative all day just so happened to live the worst lives of everyone. Now there's homeless people that are slightly positive that are living better than this man who has a house and a car and a job. And that, I guess, in the back of my mind is what is one of the things that let me know that that wasn't the way to be, and that it would affect things somehow, but I didn't know how exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to get swept up in that negativity too. Now, what do you do to these days to like relax? Do you meditate, or what else do you do?
I do a lot of mental exercises, and they switch up randomly because we get used to things. As people, that car you got was the bomb when you first got it, but now it's just another car. So yeah, a lot of mental exercises. I've got this tattoo. There's stuff hanging up on different walls. There's everywhere. There's alerts that go off on my phone to remind me to do these mental exercises. Like this. There's one that Jeff Boosky. You know Jeff?
Yep.
He gave me this one, and it's basically, you could picture like a beach ball sideways with all the pizza slices, kind of. And he was like, just give me the best case scenario you can. And he started, the middle of the ball, I just put a dollar sign, let's say for money. And so the top slice of this pizza ball, beach ball, whatever you want to say, he said, give me the best case scenario you can think about right now. And it's like, okay, you give him that. And now you move along to the next piece. And it's very important that you don't give the next best scenario, because the next best scenario is like number 2. And then you move to the next one, you give number 3. He says you give the best next scenario. So that next one isn't number 2. It's number 1. It's beating out the one before. And then you're going to the next scenario that you run. That one's beating out the one before. So like, let's say you get $100,000 in the one, and then the next one, you get everything that $100,000 came with. And the one after that, you're, living a different life, or meeting new people, or getting a career or a job, or any present gift that you want to give yourself or your family or anything like that. And so you're just running all these scenarios. You go around the wheel, and when you get to the top, you just feel amazing. And that's one that takes a lot longer than for me to, so I suggest doing it. But let's say I'm walking, I'll just get up to walk to the kitchen right now, and I'm moving. Sunday, I'm actually relocating to a new house, which is a big worry for me because I've owned most of my life until I moved to Florida 2 years ago. So when something pops into my mind about that move or about anything negative, I'll stop and be like, you know what? I believe everything's going to work out smooth. I believe everything's going to be great. I believe this is going to be a great move. The house is better. It's got a bigger yard. I believe my son is going to be playing. And here's the thing about starting a sentence with I believe. The ego has to shut up if you truly do believe that. And it will let you sit in that headspace. I believe I can make $100,000 by the end of the month. I truly do believe that. Therefore, the ego will allow me to sit in that headspace. Allow me to water that seed for a little while before it kicks you back in like it always does. But it's those small seconds that count. And if anyone, this thing right here, phone, just do yourself a favor, everyone. When you go to the bathroom and you go to pick it up, smack your hand real quick and just be present. Mm-hmm. Out of all the water and seeds you can do, thinking about the past or future, good or bad, and not to get too preachy, but they say, if you ever want to make God laugh, tell him your plan. because his plan is so much bigger than yours.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about the future, the past, good or bad, you're watering seeds. You're manifesting. The only way to let God's plan unfold is to be present. So the most important thing you could do, and the base of all my mental exercises, is being present. So if you're in a bathroom, smack your hand, say, no, I'm going to take this time for me. Even though it might not seem like it's yielding results, you might get bored. Take that time for you and just be present. Look at the wall in front of you. All of a sudden, you're going to maybe appreciate the wall. Like, yo, this is a nice house. Like, it's better than where I used to be. And then your head will go to different places. You can do some mental exercises. Use the I believe. I have one called I deserve, where you just, for the next 7 days, just say I deserve blank. Whatever you fill in, as much as you can for the next 7 days. Say that. Watch what happens. There's a whole bunch of them. I got them on my website. I got a newsletter I send out almost every 5 days a week with, I think it's called Today's Mental Exercise for you to do throughout the day. Because if you're going to spend 2 hours in the gym working on your body, you should spend at least 2 hours working up here. It doesn't have to all be at the same time. You could break it up. When I walk from here to the living room, that's 8 seconds right there where I could have been in peace and bliss. You hear that music came on right at the right time. It was classical music, peace and bliss. And so take advantage of that. Take advantage of those small moments, because those are the ones where you pull out your phone and you start to receive information as opposed to giving off information. And that's what you want. And don't pick up your phone for the first hour of the day if you can avoid it.
So I really like how you said, I believe, I deserve. It by doing these exercises, can you help young dental professionals with confidence? Because when I first got out of school, I was not very confident. I wasn't confident in my clinical skills, my patient skills, and it was all up here. Can I gain confidence as a young, unsure dental professional by doing some of these mental exercises like I believe, I deserve?
Definitely, especially I deserve, because if you think you deserve a promotion, or you think you deserve that spot, that slot, that car, that house, that spouse, if you think that if you truly believe that you deserve it, when you say that, every time you say it and the ego has to subside, you do get more confident. Now, if you don't truly believe it because you're new, or you're just not confident in your abilities, or every doctor there is better than you, there's where you go to affirmations. Here's the thing about an affirmation. You could say, I'm a millionaire. The ego is going to kick your back in and hit you with a bank statement for the first 2-3 times. But then you're going to start to smile. By the time you say it the 5th or 6th time, now you're starting to run scenarios about how you could be a millionaire. Well, this could happen and that could happen. So the more now you're seeing it as a possibility, whereas before it wasn't. And let me tell you something. If you don't create space for something, it won't come. So at this point, you're seeing it as a possibility. As you say it more, your brain is coming up with more logical plans that could actually work. Now you're getting confident in that notion of you being that person. More of that confidence dictates your beliefs. Beliefs dictate your expectations, and your expectations is what builds what's happening around you. And that's also key, because they say 90-something% of small businesses fail in the first year. Yeah, they were all confident to their family and friends, but deep down inside, they knew they were, had a lot of anxiety. Opening day didn't go the way they wanted it to. And then, stuff rolls downhill. Next thing you know, they're closing up shop. Your expectations are huge, and you can't access that part of your subconscious. You might think you know your expectations. No. Your expectations are built off of everything you've ever seen, heard, or observed in your entire life. What you're thinking right now is what's going on right now, what the current trend is. But what you truly expect to happen is what's going to happen. So be careful with your expectations. If you don't have a grasp on them, use those affirmations to eventually get there. And if you notice, I started with affirmations. It became a possibility. Then you started to believe in it. If you want to skip those and go straight to belief, use that I believe, I believe, I believe. Say I believe as many times as you can throughout the day. But I believe that I can. I believe that I will. And just to key on that, I can and I will and I hope, I always said were poison words. Because if you say I can, blah, 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 The universe will do whatever it has to do to make you say again next week, I can, blah, 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 which means you haven't done it. Same thing, I will someday. Guess what? Universe is going to make you say next week, I will someday, which means you never get it done. Same thing with hope. Although it's good to have hope, to use that in an affirmation is not good, because that just produces a future where you're hoping again. But when you use the word believe in front of that, I believe that I can make $100,000 by the end of this month. I do. Legit. Ego has to subside. I just got to water a beautiful seed. Things are happening. I like to lay out coins flat on a table and put you in the middle. And when you have a thought about something, the first thought you have of it, you put a coin on the outside. And the more you think about it, it moves towards you, right? Magnetism, vibrating frequency, which you said earlier. The more you think about it, it's moving towards you. But if you pull a coin towards you, all the other coins are going to do what? Shift out of its way. All of them are going to shift. Those are the people talking, communicating, deals getting made to get you where you need to be or what you're manifesting. So if you kind of look at it like that, water the seed, water the seed, water the seed until it gets there, and keep in mind that when you stop watering the seed, it might drift away, as opposed to just staying there, because it's all about your belief. You stop watering that seed and have a conversation with somebody who totally blows your high, you can see it drifting away and those coins sliding back into its place. So a lot of visuals, but the visuals are what keep you on point. Because once you see it up here, you like want to stick with it. So I like to use those.
Well, Neo, I believe this was one awesome podcast. Awesome, Neo. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor, brother. Trust me, it is.
We'll be in touch. Take care.